So I used to joke that my workday was not complete without being called a bitch at least once. Now, over the years, I've been called many things. I've had many labels. In no particular order, we have butterfly, precocious, white girl, mental patient, introvert, Jew, shiksa, Thorazine goddess. And there are tons more that I just didn't think of when I was prepping. But the interesting thing is, I think I was less of any of these labels when I wasn't aware of them. When I was 4 and I was called a butterfly, I didn't read into it. Butterflies are free, right? Once I became aware that I was being labeled, the labels became a role for me to play. It was far easier than learning who I was. It was neat and convenient. But there were also the expectations assigned by those labels. Sometimes the expectations were so damn high. Daughter of a brilliant CPA. Some of them carried with them the expectation of failure. I'm really at a loss as to what felt worse over the years. Some of my labels are diagnoses, but not all of them. My very first diagnosis, I was 9, atypical depressive, which meant that I was mad and sad, which I guess fit. Bipolar. I was 13 when I got this one. I read it in my chart when the admitting psychiatrist at Creedmoor State Hospital foolishly stepped out of the room. And I also found another label when I was skimming through my chart, morbidly obese. Nice, right? Also in my chart, it was noted significant family history of bipolar. So who I was based in a large part on my inherited genes. Is biology destiny? Does this mean that I was going to end up like my father or my grandfather, dead by suicide? Do I have an expiration date? Labels only carry the meaning that we individually or collectively assign them. Our entire medical system is built upon labels. Diagnoses are labels that give the green light for the approval of costly procedures. So what's the purpose of diagnoses? When your shower head is leaking or your car is making an obnoxious clanging sound, you call a plumber or you go to a mechanic so they can diagnose the problem. The term diagnosis itself is very stigma-laden. But should it be? If we look at the dictionary definitions, we have the art or act of identifying a disease from its signs and symptoms, or investigation or analysis of the cause or nature of a condition, situation, or problem. I fucking love this one. But we don't do this. Instead, we look at the symptoms and the behaviors, the what. And this would be okay, though granted a shortcut. But if we stop right there, then we're being lazy. My problem with diagnoses, and I'm guilty of this too, is that they are used as a shortcut, a neat and easy way to assess what's wrong, and then by extension, how it can be fixed. Mental health professionals are under time constraints to assess, evaluate, and treat. We diagnose based on what is in front of us in the moment. But childhood experiences influence how we see the world, ourselves, and others, and how we respond to all three. If we learn the why behind the what, everything makes sense. Everything makes sense once you understand the context. But there is some utility to diagnoses. COPD. What did this diagnosis mean to me? Well, it meant I had to quit smoking, which I did. Shit, it's been like 4 years now?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's another label I forgot. Smoker, now I'm a non-smoker. But here's the thing. When COVID first hit, I wasn't freaked out, at least not initially. I was confident that after working for over 20 years in community mental health, I had been exposed to so many different things that my immune system was rock solid. I even made a flip statement about this in front of one of the ER physicians at work. This was the one who actually read my chest CT the day that I got that diagnosis. And she looked at me deadpan and said, "Deborah, you're high risk." So in this sense, my diagnosis made me more careful. And I'm lucky that I have coworkers who cared enough about me that when N95s were scarce, they always made sure that I had one when I went into the ER to assess a patient. Now for me, my biology is very relevant, but not in the ways that most people would think when they learn that my father and my grandfather were both diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Yes, there is a genetic component, but it's more than that. What has shaped and continues to shape who I am has quite a bit to do with legacy and the intergenerational transmission of suicide. It's what the literature refers to as the urgent errant. Once I learned that my father completed suicide, I became obsessed. I was desperate to understand my father's state of mind at the time of his suicide. I had these fantasies of reuniting with him just so I could interrogate him about what his final moments were about. What was he thinking? What was he feeling? Did he think about me at all? Did I factor in? What finally motivated him? I actually walked around for months with a copy of his autopsy report in my knapsack during a particularly dark period in my early 20s. I felt that my fate was circumscribed, that my life would inevitably follow the path of my father and my grandfather. Now this is a universal concept with or without the cloud of suicide or mental illness. That fear that would become our parents, right? Can the fate that befell my father and my grandfather be avoided? How? Treat the illness that prompted their suicides? Do I take the pills? Meds may be a component, but that's another topic for another day. I've talked and written extensively about meds for decades. The Reader's Digest version is I fucking hate them and I take them. But a pill cannot cure insecure attachment. In my case, a pill could not resolve issues related to my urgent errand. Instead, ironically enough, what is helping me to transcend all that I've been labeled with are experiences like this, opportunities to make meaning of adversity, perspective taking, looking at an event, an interaction, and viewing it from different angles. I'm a writer, so I look at events as stories to be told, narratives that can be reshaped and shared. And over time, I've come to see that horrible things can be spun, and I really try to find humor in them. We need to laugh about some of this dark, depressing shit. And with practice, I found that I could approach some of these really horrific feelings and experiences knowing that they may suck really, really badly in the moment, but in a few days, weeks, or months, I can and will laugh about them. I've used this reauthoring both professionally and personally, and I've gotten to a point where even relatively shortly after a negative experience, I see that I will find it funny in time. And the periods of misery following tragedy and my comedic rewrite progressively have become shorter. Just like labels can define, guide us, and shape who we are, they themselves can be challenged. Assign a different meaning. Scarlet letter or badge of honor. To paraphrase Poe, men have called me mad, but the question is not yet settled, whether madness is or is not the loftiest intelligence. Thank you.